I don't know who needs to hear this, but I know there's some folks out there who need to hear this. Carnival Cruises is better than Royal Caribbean. Carnival is better than Royal. I'm sorry. I know you heard otherwise. I know you believe otherwise. I know you bought into the TikTok propaganda that led you to believe otherwise. You are wrong. It is false. Carnival is better than Royal. Let me explain why. Good evening. My name is Nico. You can call me Nico for the people or Nico Nice. Thank you for tuning in to this channel. This is my YouTube channel. This is one of my YouTube channels. Subscribe to this channel, like the video on your way in, and thank you for tuning in. Listen, this is a conversation that I've had many a times with many a people. And the going theme is, and it's typically from people who consider themselves loyal to Royal. The going theme is that Royal is elegant, Carnival is ghetto. If you go on Royal, you pay a little bit more, but yes, that's because you're getting a little bit higher service and quality and food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then Carnival is like, yeah, it's cheaper, you pay less, but like, it's kind of ghetto, it's kind of ratchet, blah, 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 blah. Okay, false. That is simply not true. There are some things about it that are like true adjacent, right? But not completely true. Let me explain. And then I'll explain why I believe Carnival is definitely better than Royal Caribbean. So first and foremost, why do people think Carnival is ghetto? People think Carnival is ghetto for a number of reasons. First and foremost, ghetto people do sail on Carnival. They do. And for a number of reasons. So the reasons why ghetto people sail on Carnival, number one, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, ghetto folk and broke folk are the same folk. So if Carnival offers a cruise that's relatively inexpensive and Royal Caribbean offers a cruise like the same length, the same size boat, the same caliber, essentially, that's a lot more expensive. If you are not particularly well funded, you are going to go with Carnival because it costs less. So a lot of times ghetto folk and broke folk are the same folk. So they're like, oh, well, this one is cheaper. So they all flood to Carnival and then they just happen to be ghetto as well. So then people conclude, oh, Carnival is therefore ghetto. Not quite. What I would say that's a little more accurate is that some types of Carnival sailings have more ghetto folks than others, right? And let me be more specific. If it's a short sailing, like 3 days, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it's going to be more expensive. Because if you look at it as cost per night, if it's $130 a night and it's a 3 day cruise, that's $390. Not bad. If it's $130 a night and it's a 7 day cruise, that would be seven, three. That's $1,100, over $1,100, right? For the same, wait, is that right? 130 times 7, 100 times 7 is 700. 3 times 7 is 210. 700 plus 210. No, sorry, $900, $910. So I knew that was off. So $910 per person versus $390. It's like, I'm gonna go with the shorter sailing, the 3 day cruise, because I still get to enjoy a cruise. It just doesn't cost me $1,000. Then you include taxes and port fees. It adds up to a lot. So people who don't have much money, they tend to go on shorter sailing. So on Carnival, Carnival just by default is cheaper than Royal Caribbean. So it's already cheaper per night on comparable cruises, like comparable ships. It's already cheaper per night. And then on top of that, if it's a shorter sailing, it's going to be even cheaper because it's only 3 days that you're paying for. So you'll find a lot of those short cruises, like 3 days, 4 days, with Carnival, have a lot of specialized people on the boat. And so that's where you go on TikTok, you see the big fights and the brawls, which just look absolutely insane. It's just so crazy. But I've sailed on Carnival. I've sailed on Carnival a few times, and I have not seen any of these big knockdown, drag out fights and brawls. I have not had that happen, not one time. Now, I have had some scuffles now, I ain't gonna lie to you. There's been some scuffles where some people, one person said one thing to another and blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, people try and fight, or people actually did fight, whatever, you know. but it has not been a lot and there's not been an overabundance. So that's kind of how Carnival gets its bad name. Now, Royal Caribbean, on the other hand, oh my gosh, Royal Caribbean, they kind of posit themselves as like a higher tier than Carnival. Like, we are higher, we are better, we have bigger boats, we have more amenities, we have better service, better food, blah, blah, blah. I would like to strongly disagree. First of all, they are what I would consider the same tier. Now, I'm no cruise expert by any means, but I've been on a few Carnival and I've been on a Royal Caribbean ship, and they are pretty much the same in terms of tier and amenities. Now, the Royal Caribbean ships, no, I shouldn't say the Royal Caribbean ships. Royal Caribbean overall has larger ships than Carnival, and they have more newer ships than Carnival because they are just building boats every which way, every left, right, up, down. They're, Star of the Seas just came out, Utopia of the Seas just came out. Wonder of the Seas, that's the one I went on, which was the best at the time when I went on it. Icon of the Seas, which is the one that came after Wonder of the Seas as the best one. But I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but like Royal Caribbean is not super elegant and just way better than Carnival. Not at all. The food is comparable. The service is comparable. The ships are comparable if you look at the same caliber of ships. For example, if you were going to sail on Carnival, I would recommend you sail on one of their newer boats, either the Carnival Mardi Gras, the Celebration, or the Jubilee. You sail on any one of those ships, and you are going to have a better time. You're going to enjoy yourself more than if you were to go on any Royal Caribbean ship. And I mean any, including the most brand newest Star of the Seas, Utopia of the Seas, Icon, whatever, you name it. I'm telling you, not a single one of those ships can beat out Carnival, Jubilee, Celebration, or Mardi Gras in terms of all things included. You enjoying yourself, the food, the service, the fun, and the price. They cannot compete. But the only reason why people don't realize this is because people consider what you see with Carnival's shorter sailings on their smaller ships. They merge what you have on their smaller ships and shorter sailings with the whole entire cruise line, which I get. I mean, I get it. If people see something happening on a Carnival ship, they're just going to say, oh, that's what you get with Carnival. But let me tell you, there's a drastic difference between their shorter sailings and smaller ships versus their longer sailings and their newer ships. Now, let's go to Royal, for example. Why do I think Carnival is so much better? I'm going to give you these reasons, right? So the price, the people, the fun, the food/service, the ship. So let's start with the price.